Inside a sorting warehouse, a worker leans too close to a conveyor. Then the belt takes hold. In this sorting warehouse, conveyor belts run constantly, carrying packages and bags down long lines. One worker then climbed on the conveyor, and it turned into chaos. As the worker reaches farther, his weight shifts unexpectedly. In an instant, balance is lost and momentum carries him dangerously onto the moving belt's path. What began as a simple adjustment suddenly exposes the full hazard of an unguarded conveyor. Never ever lean directly over a moving conveyor. Belts are designed to grip and carry anything that touches them, including a person who gets too close. Every conveyor must have barriers, clear work zones, and accessible emergency stops. Workers should always handle loads from the side, keeping their bodies out of the belt's path. A truck is unloading, but the real danger comes crashing from above. In an industrial yard, a dump truck sits heavy with stones. Its tailgate is locked tight, holding back a mountain of rock. A worker steps forward to do the job the hard way, manually releasing the latch. The focus is on the truck, on the shifting load behind the gate. What no one notices is the bigger risk lurking overhead. The worker pulls the latch, the tailgate swings free, and rock begins to tumble as expected. But before the zone clears, something shifts overhead. A massive boulder, unsettled by the release, suddenly breaks loose. Gravity takes hold, and in an instant, the unloading area transforms into chaos. Never ever stay beneath unstable overhead material. Hazards can strike from above when you least expect it, and once they fall, there is no time to react. Unloading zones must be cleared fast, and overhead areas must be secured before any work begins. On a drilling rig, pressure is invisible until the system fails and steel whips loose with unbelievable force. The rig floor is crowded with equipment. Heavy lines, clamps, and joints run in every direction, forming a Chickson loop, the high-pressure piping system that drives critical oil field operations. These pipes don't just carry fluid, they carry pressure, often thousands of pounds per square inch. Workers in coveralls and helmets move in close quarters, adjusting valves and tools. Then in seconds, the routine shatters. A Chickson connection fails, and the loop jolts under sudden pressure. Energy surges through the system, shaking the rig floor as tools scatter and alarms rise. The controlled operation dissolves instantly into chaos, exposing the raw force of pressure unleashed. Never, ever stand in the line of fire of high-pressure equipment. If a hose, pipe, or loop fails, it will release its energy instantly, and no human can move fast enough to escape. Also, Chickson loops and high-pressure lines demand constant inspection, proper maintenance, and disciplined training. Inside a steel plant in China, a stream of molten metal falls, and in seconds, the factory floor erupts into fire. In this factory, giant overhead cranes move heavy ladles filled with molten metal. The liquid inside burns at over 1,000 degrees, glowing bright white. Workers move below, guiding production. As the crane positions itself over the pouring zone, everything seems routine. The transfer of liquid steel is an everyday part of smelting, but things soon went wrong. As the crane swings the ladle into position, a thin stream escapes, striking the floor and igniting instantly. The spill flashes outward, feeding into surrounding debris and triggering a chain of fire across the work zone. In moments, the routine transfer of molten steel unravels into a full-scale emergency. Never, ever underestimate molten metal. Even a small leak can escalate into a full-scale explosion when liquid steel contacts the floor or moisture. Steel plants demand absolute vigilance. Equipment carrying molten metal must be inspected constantly. Workers must stay clear of pour zones, shielded and protected, with emergency plans ready. On a busy loading yard, a forklift was misused as a lift, and in seconds, control was lost. The scene is outside a warehouse, trucks lined up, trailers stacked with massive steel coils. Workers move quickly, preparing to secure the load under a tarp. The coils are heavy, round, and unstable if not covered properly. But instead of using proper equipment for overhead work, one worker is raised on the forks of a forklift. The yellow machine lifts him high, balancing him precariously above the coils. For a moment, it looks like the tarp will be spread smoothly, but what follows is a dangerous turn. As the tarp shifts, the forklift tilts forward under the redistributed weight. The load shifts the balance of the machine, and in seconds the forklift begins to topple. The tarp scatters as the equipment tips, turning routine unloading into a sudden hazard and forcing the site to halt operations. Never, ever use a forklift to lift people. Forks are designed to carry loads, not lives, and one misuse can turn the equipment into a falling hazard. And most importantly, when a machine starts to tip, no one should ever try to hold it up. A worker in a bucket lift reaches for the line. Then in a flash, the sky ignites. It's a bright day at a high-voltage substation. Towers, insulators, and conductors stretch in every direction, carrying immense electrical energy. A bucket truck positions its lift beneath the lines. Inside the bucket, a lineman in full protective gear prepares to work. From the ground, it looks calm, precise, almost routine. But this is no ordinary environment. These lines hold thousands of volts, energy that waits for the smallest mistake to unleash chaos. The worker maneuvers near the live conductor. In an instant, the air becomes a pathway, and a violent arc flash erupts. A blinding burst of energy tears outward, filling the sky with fire and smoke. The controlled calm of the substation shatters as raw electricity roars across the yard. Electricity doesn't forgive distance errors. High voltage can arc through the air, and one wrong approach can unleash explosive force. Every live line job must follow strict clearance rules with insulated equipment, tested PPE, and fail-safe procedures. Workers must never assume gear alone will protect them. The only true shield is maintaining safe distance and control, because in high-voltage work, even the air can turn against you. A worker stands at the edge of an open pit, then a swinging load from behind sends him over. Inside a large warehouse, cranes lift heavy bags of material, moving them across open processing pits. The pits are uncovered, deep, and lined up along the floor. One worker stands near the edge, focused on the task ahead, while another moves farther along the row. Above them, a suspended load hangs from the crane, swinging slightly as it's lowered into position. As the crane shifts, the load swings wide. In seconds, the heavy bundle veers dangerously close to the edge where workers stand. The force of the swing collides with the open pit hazard, aligning suspended loads and unprotected drop zones into one catastrophic chain of risk. What began as routine hoisting suddenly exposes the workspace to uncontrollable danger. Never, ever allow workers to stand at unprotected edges while suspended loads are in motion. One unexpected swing can turn the workspace itself into a trap. Every hoisting zone must have strict exclusion areas. Open pits should be barricaded or covered, and workers must never position themselves between a load's swing path and an edge. A worker pushes against a tractor tire for leverage, but then the force turns dangerous. Inside a small workshop, a tractor stands parked. One worker lies on a creeper beneath it, while another helps position him from behind. Instead of relying on proper equipment, the worker braces his leg against the heavy rear tire. The tire isn't moving, but its size and tread create a point of pressure no human body should ever lean into. As he pushes harder, the tread grips and resists. Suddenly, the tire's force shifts back against him, overpowering his stance. The leverage he thought was steady collapses, and in that instant, the hazard of using his body as a brace becomes impossible to ignore. Never, ever use your body as leverage against heavy equipment. Even when parked, tractors and tires exert enormous force that can cause serious injury. On a quiet work site, one spark met the wrong container, turning routine grinding into a violent blast. The worker had positioned an old metal drum on the ground, preparing to cut through its surface with an angle grinder. It seemed ordinary, just another step in a day's labor. The grinding wheel screeched as sparks rained across the drum, but no one knew what still lingered inside. Within seconds, the sealed drum reacts. Residual flammable vapors ignite, and the container erupts in a violent blast. Smoke and debris tear across the worksite, as what looked like routine grinding suddenly unleashes the full force of trapped energy. Never, ever cut or weld on closed containers unless they are completely cleaned, vented, and certified safe, because any trace of flammable material can turn them into an explosive hazard. A worker leans across a press to adjust material, then the machine closes without warning. In a busy factory, sheets of material move along a conveyor into a massive press. The The machine is designed to cut or compact with immense force. One worker steps forward, adjusting a sheet with his hands, trying to get it aligned perfectly. It's a common scene in industrial production. Speed matters, accuracy matters, but so does timing. As the worker leans across the table, the press suddenly cycles. In an instant, the heavy plates drop and the safe gap vanishes. What looked like a routine adjustment instantly becomes a hazardous entrapment zone as the machine closes automatically without pause. Never, ever reach into the danger zone of a press while it is active. Machines don't stop for hesitation. They only stop for safeguards. Industrial presses must always be equipped with interlocks, barriers, or two-hand controls that prevent workers from entering the area during cycles. Training should stress that alignment must be done only when machines are locked out or stopped. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.